Morning to all you Broncos fans out there. This is Legends of Mile High, and I'm Thomas Hall. And we are going to talk about a very, very wonderful injury report that came out yesterday for the Denver Broncos, what it means for the team going forward, how healthy they appear to be, and how healthy they may be down this stretch run. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some memorable Broncos versus Bills game today. So I hope you're ready to not only stroll down memory lane, but to also really talk about some important factors for this stretch run. I know the Broncos are 3-5, coming off a couple wins. Got at the bye week. We don't really know who these Broncos are yet, but if they are a team that can actually kind of compete to try and make the playoffs, that's their goal. I'm not buying into it yet, but if they are that team, the injuries are going to be a huge factor in this. And I'll tell you, the last several years, the Broncos have been snake bitten by injuries, and any chance they had at any run towards the playoffs before, even, Fangio, it doesn't even matter what the coach was. Injuries would have killed it anyway had they been able to make that run. And they really did. They were void of talent towards the end of year, most of the last couple of years. So it's a pleasant surprise coming out of the bye week, and it means a lot. It really does. Health means a lot in the NFL. The more injured you are, the less likely you are to do anything of significance. It's very rare to see a team have a lot of injured players, a lot of players on injured reserve to really do a whole lot. So welcome to the show this morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to grab a couple comments right away. So Dominic Martin, thanks for coming in this morning. Appreciate it. Coming in with a, hey, Tom, mile high salute to my Broncos family. The Broncos getting healthy is definitely key. The Bills seem a bit banged up. They definitely do. I'd want to see just how banged up they are. I'd like to see their injury report going forward. Denver needs to stay the course and get a victory. Legends of Mile High for life. Well, thanks for being here, Dominic. Really appreciate it coming in. We're going to have a pretty good discussion. So let's grab a couple more comments and we'll jump right into it. We've got Jeremy Sean coming in. Thanks, Jeremy, for being here this morning. Appreciate it. Saying, morning, Thomas. Nice to actually get a bye week in the middle of a season. It feels like the KC win and following bye week could really reframe the season for not only the team, but also the fans. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it came at the right time as far as health goes, but for me, it came at the wrong time because I wanted to see another game after the Kansas City Chiefs game just to see for my own purposes, right? I mean, for my own purposes, see how good this team actually was, what kind of team that we're going to see going forward after the Kansas City Chiefs game. And that, selfishly, I really wanted to see that happen. And, we got a game coming up now. So it's a moot point at this juncture in the season, but it did come at a great time. It's good to get those buys in the middle of the season, not late, not too early, get rested up. But the thing of it is, I mean, there's two players on the injury report right now. That's it, two. And they're both full participants. You got Baron Browning and Ben Powers, and they weren't even limited at all. So basically, the injury report is pretty clean. I know that there are some players who are on injured reserve, right? So that does count at some there, but there's 8 players, and I say 3 of them are just injured players that can come back. I mean, Dulcich. They expect him to come back. He's eligible, I think, after this game, maybe the next game. So that's coming up. Brandon Johnson is another player who will be back in December. So he went on injured reserve. I like Brandon Johnson. I think he should get a few more targets going forward, but that's another injury. And then Palczewski, the offensive tackle, the undrafted rookie free agent offensive tackle, who I really liked right out of the gate. I thought he was going to push for playing time, push for a roster spot. He made that roster. They put him on injured reserve. He's healed up by now. They just don't need to waste the roster spot to bring him on to the 53-man roster because their offensive line has been healthy, which is another great happening, so to speak, right? The offensive line has been healthy. They've been able to play together consistently now for this will be for 8 weeks, and this will be going on 9 weeks. So that's a huge benefit. And then their backups seem to be healthy as well. So there's no reason to bring him off of IR, but they could if they needed to. So to me, that means there's really 5 players who are out, and that's it. That's really a pleasant surprise based on what we've seen the last couple of years where they couldn't keep people healthy. But yeah, thanks for coming in this morning, Jeremy. Really appreciate it. I'm going to see if I can get into Facebook here and make sure I'm not missing any Facebook comments. But I appreciate everybody coming in this morning. I know it's early. I hope you have your coffee, or if you don't, if it's just that you're watching at a different time, that's great as well. So thank you. We've got Riptide coming in with some good advice. Riptide, thank you so much for being here this morning. Really appreciate it. Smash the like button, please do, and share. Right, share this. I really enjoy this show, and we're going to talk history. We always try and weave that in. So if you have friends and family who like the history of the Denver Broncos and like to talk about current events, have them join and throw out some stuff. I really want to hear. I'm going to talk about some memorable Buffalo Bills versus Broncos games. If you have some, throw it in the chat. We'll talk about it. So thanks, Riptide, for being here. Really appreciate that. And now I'm seeing if I can. Oh, here we go. Finally, I get into Facebook. I'm not a Facebook user very much. I stopped using it a while back, but I got back into it because I have to. So here I am trying to fumble around with Facebook. But anyway, I'm going to grab Lars Rivera. Thank you so much, Lars, for the Facebook stars. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate the support. Lars says, "What up, guys? What do you think about the news of the new state-of-the-art training facility? For me, if it don't add to a better training camp, I'll be sad." Yeah, I mean, they're spending the money, man. I said this on the show on Wednesday night with Luke Patterson. So don't forget to check that out. Mile High Insiders. It's a fun show. We have a great time on that show. We got a good rapport back and forth. So it's very, very fun. But I said this on that show that if you're an owner that doesn't know a ton about football, which most of them don't, let the football people take care of that. But you can help out by going out and spending money to upgrade your facilities, make them better, make it more attractive for those free agents to come. Once the team starts winning again, and they want to play in the Mile High City because everything is state of the art, everything's good, good medical staff, all of that. That's attractive. So to spend this money and make these facilities better is huge. I think it's going to be a better experience, right? I don't know if they're going to start. I hope they aren't going to start charging fans to get in. That would be a shame because there's a lot of families that get to go out. Something they can do, go out there for free and sit and watch their favorite team from the hill. But they're going to put stands in. Man, I don't know if it's going to make the team better, but it's good. It should make the fan experience better. It really should. I mean, it's you get in there after a rain and you're sitting on the hill and it's wet grass and stuff. It's not a pleasant experience, so to speak, compared to sitting in stands and being able to stay dry and watch it. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a few years. But it's I think they're going to upgrade that. There's talk of a new stadium eventually. Who knows where that's going to be, but that's going to be state of the art. My guess is they'll have a retractable roof on it so they can try and get Super Bowl in Denver finally. So yeah, thanks for the support, Lars. Really appreciate it. Quentin Carson coming and saying, "Good morning, Thomas. Let's go Broncos. Beat those Bills." I hope you have some memorable Broncos versus Bills games in your mind, Quentin, because we're going to talk about that. Joey LaGuardia coming in with a familiar face, Von Miller. I know. I'm still sad that he's not in the orange and blue anymore, and I know that you got to move on from players eventually. I think they moved on from him a little too early. Being a legend he was in Denver. One of the greatest edge rushers of all time is what's going to, when he retires, that's what he's going to be known for. Obviously, Hall of Famer. But he said Von Miller will probably wreck us after he said all the love about Broncos country. LOL. I hope not. I mean, this is the one time I hope that he doesn't do great. But otherwise, I'm pulling for him, even though he's not on the team anymore, but he has a lot of love for Broncos country. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that comment, Joey. Appreciate it. There are some, there's definitely some keys to these victories. This victory coming up, and Luke Patterson, he's written a keys to victory that should come out today. So look for that. I actually do my, by the numbers. I dig into some stats and pinpoint a few, usually three that if the Broncos can do will lead to a victory. So check those out. But hopefully, obviously, stopping Von Miller from having that revenge game, so to speak. I don't know if he would call it that, but you gotta account for him because he really can be a game wrecker. We've seen that in the past, and I know he's up there in years and coming off an injury, but he's still very talented. So I would not bet against him having a good game. Just hopefully he doesn't. So, but anyway, I mean, the thing of it is like I was talking about earlier, the injury report is clean. The Broncos offensive line, which is huge to stop that Buffalo Bills pass rush, has been playing together now for quite some time. I've said this before. They did not play together very much in the off season or the training camp into preseason. People were injured. They were, rotating Garrett Bowles in and out quite a bit because he was recovering from injury. So it took a while for them to really start to gel. And they seem like they're, the interior line is looking like one of the better groups in the league from my perspective. They do have some struggles with some interior pass rush once in a while, but they're coming together. The only thing that really it needs to kind of take that offensive line to the next step is McGlinchey to stop with these mistakes, and not just false starts, but he's made some mistakes in his blocking assignments and whatnot. So once that kind of hopefully stops happening, I think you're going to see a unit going down the stretch that is one of the better units in the league overall. If McGlinchey can step up, because Garrett Bowles is playing great. I think he's playing really good, really solid football. And like I said, the interior offensive line is as well. So we'll have to look for that. But if they stay healthy, stay together the entire season, which they haven't been able to do the last few years, I think they're going to be a solid unit meshed together. And man, just really hope that this team can somehow figure out ways to get wins, put wins together, stretch some wins together. And it starts with the Buffalo Bills, right? And I said this after or before the Kansas City Chiefs games. I said, if they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs and they can beat the Buffalo Bills, they're going to make a run and make the playoffs. That I just, there's no doubt in my mind. If they can waltz into Buffalo and beat the Bills, they're going to make a run and they'll make the playoffs. But if they lose to Buffalo, it's going to be very hard. No matter, I mean, even if they have a good showing against Buffalo and, they seem like they're still that team that came out and played really well against Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be so hard. There was 6 losses. It's hard to string together that many wins and get into the playoffs. But if they can beat the Buffalo Bills, I think they make the playoffs. And it's weird for me to say it because this team, the first 3 weeks, I was done. I was like, this team, they don't even care. They're not even trying. It's like, it was terrible, but they've turned it around. And we'll see how much they've turned it around in this Buffalo Bills game. Keith Brugman, how you doing this morning? Good to see you. Saying good morning, Thomas. Does Dulcich come back to be the receiving tight end we need, or will we be looking for a tight end this offseason again? Question mark. Keith, I want him to be that receiving tight end. The Broncos need him, and hopefully he can get healed up from that hamstring, figure out what's going on. He's going and getting tests, figuring out why he's having these problems. If they can get that figured out, and he can come back during this stretch, he's going to be a valuable weapon, because that's the one thing that I feel like that Russell Wilson needs is that tight end who can get open, right? Adam Troutman, I thought, was going to have a pretty decent year because he looked pretty good in camp. He just hasn't been that guy, right? He catches a ball here and there, but Russell Wilson needs a more dynamic tight end to get that extra piece to the offense to give him a little bit more, get that a little bit more juice, right? So I hope he comes back, and it looks like he probably will try to make that comeback, and hopefully in a couple weeks, and be there for the stretch run. But regardless of whether he comes back or not and plays, they're going to have to look for a tight end. They have to. They're going to have to try and grab another tight end. However, There's a tight end on the practice squad, Kroll. He looks pretty good in preseason. He seems like a dynamic tight end, needs some development. He might be, somebody to keep an eye on for next season, get a little bit more time under his belt. I'd like to actually see him get called up and play in a few games because really, I mean, the group that they have is not a dynamic group. Troutman, like I said, not that great. Uh, Not as good as I thought he was going to be. Manhurts, I love his blocking, but he's not a dynamic receiving threat. And Nate Atkins, we don't really know what we got with Nate Atkins, right? I mean, we watch him, he looks okay, but he's still young and needs to develop, and he doesn't get much playing time. So it's interesting, but I think they're going to have to go try and get another tight end. They're going to have to either free agency, try and find one that they really like, or draft one. So yeah, they'll be looking for one. I just don't think Dulcich is reliable enough to count on him for next year. Thank you for coming in, Keith. Really appreciate it. Albert Knopper's coming in saying good morning, Thomas. It's great to see you, Albert. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. We've got Pearl Heaters coming in saying hi. I hope that everything's going well with you, Pearl. Appreciate you being here this morning. And now we've got Gabe Rocks coming in with a memorable game. Broncos Bills AFC title game where Elway got hurt. Kubiak went on a tear and brought us back. We actually got the onside kick and had a chance to win, and Steve Sewell fumbled it away. I was devastated. Yeah, I was going to talk about that game too. 1991 season. It was 1992, January 1992, when this AFC championship game. Had the Broncos won, it would have been a rematch with the Washington Redskins. Now, I actually asked Carl Mecklenburg once. I said, "Do you think if you would have got back to that Super Bowl, you would have won it?" And he said, "Oh, I always thought that we were going to win every game." But I actually think, thinking about it, that Redskins team was a great team. They were a very, very solid team. They beat the Bills pretty handily, but the Broncos, having lost before, they had a much, much better defense that year. Than they did the previous meeting, and much better than the Buffalo Bills. I think they could have maybe won a Super Bowl that year. I know it's wishful thinking and everything, but that was one of my memorable ones. But the key to that was that Elway got hurt, Sewell fumbled, Kubiak came in, and it was 10-7 the final score. Treadwell missed 3 field goals, and even he'd have made those 3 field goals, it'd have been 9-10, closing out that game, and they could have just got into field goal range to win it, and if they had scored that touchdown, Kubiak had taken them down, score that touchdown, they would have won that game. And it's really a shame because, I talked about Rich Carlos, why he became a barefoot kicker and everything, and Treadwell it was Carlos, and I think Raphael Septien and David Treadwell, they all kind of were kicking it, in the offseason to see who got it. And Treadwell ended up winning it, and that ended up costing him. I think had they kept Rich Carlos around, the barefoot kicker, that game would have turned out different. And I think Treadwell just wasn't that great under pressure, and that's what happened. But that was a bummer for me. I remember watching that game just thinking, why is this happening? They should be winning this game. And the Bills ended up going, that was their second of 4 straight Super Bowls. So it'd have been nice to break that up a little bit, and it might have helped the Bills as well. I don't know if they'd have broke that up a little bit, maybe they would have ended up winning one. But oh well. But it was a bummer, man. Thanks for bringing that up, Gabe. It was a real bummer. And then here is another one. Rick Morris coming in with another one. I remember John Elway going to overtime with the Bills. Broncos won the coin toss, and Elway says, "We'll kick that way." No one questioned it. They got snowed in that year too. Almost didn't make the game. Yeah, that was 1997 season. That was a huge game. That was a game where, there was a huge snow in Denver. Players were like riding snowmobiles in to get to the plane to take off to go to Buffalo. Everybody was like tired. It was one of those games where they should have probably beat the Bills more handily that year than they did. Going into overtime, I think it was 23-20. I think the final score was, if I remember correctly, 23-20. 3-point win in overtime. But that was huge because that was the year that they won the Super Bowl, and they ended up having to go win it as a wild card team because they didn't win the division. But Yeah, that was a huge win, and I think that was a win that solidified that team, right? Because there was so much adversity trying to get to the game, and they still went out and played very well. With all the circumstances of winning that game in Buffalo. So that's another one of my memorable games. Those were my two. People brought them up, so it was very good. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Jeremy's going to go back to the tight ends here. So Jeremy says, I knew the moment we cut Alberto that Dulcich would miss time with an injury. Yeah, I know people. It's weird because people really liked what Alberto did, right? And you know, uh, it was preseason. It's hard to say if he would have been really good in the regular season. He hasn't played much with Philadelphia. He has some holes in his game, but keeping Alberto, that really, having a receiving threat, would that have helped right now? I don't know. It's a good question, but I keep going back to the same thing. Like Kroll, who's on the practice squad, had just as good as a preseason as Alberto did receiving. Is should they be thinking about bringing him into the roster while Dulcich is on his sitting out with an injury to see what he has to offer? If we think that Alberto should be out there, maybe the team should be thinking about bringing Kroll up. But I don't think they're going to make any changes right now unless they have to. I don't. They'll bring up their usual folks from the practice squad, but I don't think they're going to activate Palczewski. I don't think they're going to until they have to. I don't think they're going to bring Kroll up. They have what they want to do in mind, and they're going to keep doing it. So I go back and forth on Alberto. To me, he really flashed in preseason. He is that receiving threat, but there's a lot of holes in his game. But he might be helpful to Russell Wilson right now. So we'll never know. And Joy LaGuardia is coming in talking about, I'm not sure how I feel about an enclosed stadium idea, which I floated out there, have a retractable roof. Football is in weather is nostalgic. I think the location needs to be moved. Would be awesome to have a mountain stadium. That would be cool. And the reason, I mean, I love having the snow and the weather in football too, and that roof can be open the entire season, but they need a retractable roof if they want to attract a Super Bowl, because they've been trying to get a Super Bowl in Denver for quite a while, and they just keep not letting it happen because they don't want the weather to be bad, and but if they have a retractable roof, they can do that. And that's the only reason I say retractable roof. I would rather be outside. Denver's beautiful, even in the fall and winter. The weather's usually pretty good. So I would prefer to leave it open. But yeah, that's why I don't want a dome. I don't want them to build a dome. That doesn't seem right to have a dome in there. But Keith Brugman coming back in. Thomas, you can give a gold sticker to only one offensive lineman. Who do you give it to? Yeah, it's Quinn Miners for me. I think he's playing extremely well. He's one of the better guards in the league this year, from my perspective, and I think other people actually have that same opinion. You look at some of these advanced stats; they talk about him, being or advanced metrics, I should say, that he's been one of the better league guards in the league. So I would give him the gold sticker just because I think he's playing so well, and it's his time to really kind of take off. And I've always liked Miners, and I love watching him out there. He plays aggressively. He pushes the pile. I love watching him help Javonte Williams get those extra couple yards in that pile. So he gets my gold sticker, but you got to give a hat tip to Lloyd Cushenberry as well. My dark horse candidate to be the surprise player this year, and sure enough, he's a surprise player. He's playing excellent compared to what he had been playing in the past. I mean, people and me included were saying they need to go out and get a center, and that in the draft and early and try and get him to start. But Sean Payton, he thought he could turn him around, and he did, and that's what happened. So I'm happy for Lloyd Cushenberry. So it's a tough one for me. Miners gets it, but Cushenberry should get his props. And who knows if they're going to re-sign him to a deal? That's the big question. That when he finally turns it around, has a great year, And now he's an unrestricted free agent. And I know they drafted a center, maybe preparing for that. I just don't know how good Alex Forsyth is, right? I didn't see much of him in camp. He played a little bit sparingly in preseason. How good is he? Is he the real replacement, or are they going to give Cushionberry the money? I don't know. That's the big question. So thanks for that. And we're gonna go jump back into the Bills with Gabe Rocks. If we play Smash Mouth, I'm fine with the blocking tight ends, but Albert was dynamic. Yeah, and this is the thing, Gabe. The Buffalo Bills are vulnerable against the run. I don't know how much the tight ends are really going to play into that, but if they can run the ball behind Quinn Miners in this game, consistently and stick to it. As long as their defense, the Broncos defense does the job and keeps this game close, the Broncos can churn out the yardage behind Quinn Miners and really McGlinchey as well. I think the Bills have been very vulnerable in that spot. Even if you take out the big runs that they've had, that other teams have had against them, they're still giving up significantly more yardage than the NFL average in that area. So I think the Broncos can go out there and really do some damage against the Bills, regardless of the tight ends. But I think Manhurts has been doing a great job in the blocking category, and so I think that they could go out and do some damage. But again, the defense has to show up and not, let the Buffalo Bills jump out to a big lead, because then that's gonna kind of ruin it for everything else. But thank you, Gabe, for coming in with that. Appreciate it. And we're still Manuel Flores is coming and still talking about the tight ends. We definitely need someone to stretch the middle of the field with some speed at tight end, but need someone who can block also. Yeah, that's the thing. I'd like to see Nate Adkins just get a little bit more time, right? Just get a little more time in the pass catching realm. Like give him some opportunities to see what he can do to stretch the field, because they obviously liked him. I mean, he was an undrafted rookie that made the team. He's been on the active roster, plays special teams. I'd like to see what he can do receiving. So let's see if I would like to see the Broncos give him a few more opportunities, because, I mean, Troutman just isn't dynamic. He catches the ball, okay. He just doesn't get any real yards after the catch. He's not real elusive. He doesn't, really, he isn't that threat that gets open when the quarterback needs him to be open. So why not give somebody else another shot? And I think it's Adkins should get that first shot and see what he can do. But yeah, the Broncos are going to have to look for a more dynamic tight end regardless in the offseason. They're going to have to. They need someone that is reliable. Jeremy Sean's talking about Lloyd Cushenberry leaving and whether or not Wattenberg is a replacement option as well. Yeah, I mean, I was actually kind of surprised that Wattenberg made the team, to be honest with you. From what I saw in camp, I thought Kyle Fuller outplayed him, but they went with Wattenberg instead. Wattenberg's got a lot of versatility. So don't get me wrong, he can play all three interior line positions. I just don't know how good he is. I don't think he's that good. I think if they went from Cushenberry right now to Wattenberg, it would be definitely a downgrade, a significant downgrade. So, yeah, I don't know. There's still, but again, he's young, so it takes a while for these offensive linemen to develop. So maybe he does come around. We'll see. But yeah, he is their option. They seem to like him okay. And then Albert Nauber's coming in with put Quinn Bailey as well with help for running the ball. It looks like the Bills have a very hard time with 6-man O-line. Yeah, they've played a lot with Quinn Bailey coming in as that extra lineman, right? Checking in as eligible. You've hear that quite a bit when he, in the games. But yeah, I love it when they do that. I love it when teams go, especially the Broncos, with Javonte Williams. You got a fullback, you got an extra lineman in there, and they just go in there and just pound the ball. It's just it's old school. I love it, and I hope they do. I hope you're right, Albert. I hope they do stick with that and just run it right down the Bills' throat until they can stop it. And that's going to open up so much more. Russell Wilson, he needs that running game to be really, really good to help him because he has his faults as well, and running game will help alleviate some of those. But I actually think that Javonte Williams, this is going to be his first game where he goes over 100 yards. He's going to finally hit that 100-yard mark this season, in this game. I think they're vulnerable. Again, the defense has to do their part in order to have the Broncos continue to run the ball. But I think that I think that they can do that. I think that they can. He can churn out the yards, and I think Jaleel McLaughlin's going to get a big hitter too. I think he's going to get a big hitter, a big run. So that's what I'm anticipating. So. And we got Nick coming in asking, how credible was our win against KC? Yeah, that's the big question, Nick. I don't know. For me, I just look at that game, and I know people argue with this. They dominated the Chiefs, right? They really did. And I know the score doesn't look like total domination. All of those turnovers that they had, except for one, was created by good plays from the Broncos. So if you're going to talk, the Chiefs, gave the game away with a bunch of turnovers. Well, yeah, but all of them but one were really created by good plays from the defense. It was that special teams fumble that the punt returner just dropped the ball. But other than that, it was big. And you go back and you look at that's the lowest score total and the biggest margin of victory against the Chiefs since week 7 of 2021. The Chiefs are a good team. And it's also the most points that anyone had scored on the Chiefs, right, this season. So their defense is good. So it's a good team. And to me, it's like, if you look at that game, that was a dominating game, a dominating performance. It wasn't just a trap game. It wasn't just one of those things where the Broncos squeaked by because they wanted it more, because it was a huge game for them. It was their Super Bowl. But then when you think about that, was it because they needed to get that monkey off their back, and now they're going to kind of fall back to where they were? So that's why I wanted that next game before the bye, just to see how good they were. But we're going to find out when they go to Buffalo whether or not that KC win was an outlier, or how good this team really is. And even if they lose to the Bills, but they make a game of it, they play good. The Bills just at home just ended up winning. That doesn't mean that the Broncos are a bad team, right? It has to be one of those kind of, we just went in and didn't play hard and lost. So we'll see. And I don't know yet, Nick. And I hope it really shows that that they're a good team. We got Kyle Barron's coming in. Thanks for coming in from Facebook. I appreciate that. And thanks for being here this morning. Kyle asks, who do you think will be the starting QB next year? I think it's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, I think they're tied to Russell Wilson for at least another year, probably 2 more years. Russell Wilson has his faults, but I'm telling you, people are upset about what Russell Wilson, the mistakes he's made, but it's the same mistakes he's made through his entire career in Seattle. He fumbles the ball. Yeah, he did it in Seattle a ton. He fumbled the ball 14 times in 2017, I believe. He's lost 5 fumbles before in Seattle. He does that. He takes too many sacks, holds the ball too long. So if you were happy with the trade, this is what you got. You also got a quarterback who can throw a lot of touchdowns, which he's shown that he can do right now. Not a lot of interceptions, which he's showing that right now. He can still move the ball with his legs. Even at his age, he's still got some spring in his step. So you really are getting a version of the Seattle Russell Wilson. Now, I think this back half of the season, you're going to see a better Russell Wilson. I think you got more time with Russell Wilson in the in the Sean Payton offense. If you look back at Drew Brees, a perfect fit for Sean Payton's offense. It took him 7 games before he really started going, and then that back half of the season that got him into the MVP talk that year. So I think that Russell Wilson, more time with him, and then the defense that they're facing. There's some defenses that aren't very good that they're going to be going up against. Russell Wilson should have a lot better games, because playing KC's defense twice, they're solid pass defense. They played. At the time, they played several of the, top 10, top 15 pass defenses. So, and not that I'm not trying to defend Russell Wilson. He had a couple pretty poor games, and, he's made mistakes for sure. But I think you're going to see a better Russell Wilson. They're going to, keep him another year. And if another season in Sean Payton's offense with a little bit better team, you're probably gonna see Russell Wilson for a couple more years, and that's good. Whether people like Russell Wilson or not, that's a good thing because they're paying him a lot of money. If they get rid of him, they're still going to be paying him a lot of money. They're still going to be affecting the cap negatively. So you might as well hope that he's actually playing really well and can stick around for a few more years. That's what you hope. But I don't see them replacing Russell Wilson. It's not Jarrett Stidham. In fact, I don't even know if Jarrett Stidham is going to be the backup next year. He's got a big salary cap hit really for a backup quarterback who wasn't very good. I know he played pretty well in preseason. One game wasn't bad, but he looked terrible in camp. He's not a very good quarterback. If Russell Wilson goes down and Stidham has to come in, the Broncos aren't going to win many games. So they could save a lot of salary cap by moving on to a different backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham. So it's not going to be him. I don't think they're going to have a high enough draft choice to get a rookie QB, franchise QB that's going to step in and replace Russell Wilson in year one. So I think you're going to see Russell Wilson for probably 2 more years. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. So, and Chase Wellner's coming in with a voice of reason. Let's get the ball to Mims, please. Yeah, we've all been talking about this. It's like, come on. We saw how dynamic Mims is. He's the most dynamic receiver on the team. Probably the most dynamic, most explosive, at least, player on the offense. Let's get him the ball a little bit more, see what he can do. Get him out in space, get him the ball. He's shown that he is capable of, those big explosive plays. And that's what the Broncos really need to have, more explosive plays. All right. Well, it is at that time of the hour, so to speak. I really appreciate everybody coming in. I hope I didn't miss any comments. I really appreciate the support that you guys gave me. So I just want to remind you, make sure you go check out some articles coming out today about the Buffalo Bills game. Some keys to victory are coming out. Definitely go check out the other shows. We've got Saturday show coming on with Ron White and myself. Orange and Blue View. We usually do a preview, but since it's not right before the game, let the Huddle Up podcast take care of that. We'll be talking about something different, but we'll get back to our previews after that. So check it out. Check out the shows. And, if you want to talk football during the week, I'm there on Twitter. Shoot me a tweet, ask me some questions, history. And finally, before I close this all out, don't forget to talk about Tom Nalen. They're going to vote on the semifinalists coming up in a couple weeks. The more we talk about Tom Nalen, the more we can push his candidacy. Hopefully the voters, the selectors will see what they've been missing on Tom Nalen the last few years and hopefully get him into the Hall of Fame. Keith Brugman, thank you. Saying fantastic solo show. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, I definitely solo. It's always going to be, hopefully. I love doing it and it's fun. So thank you for that. And then Joey LaGuardia is coming in. Tom Nalen. Don't forget, go out there. I've got a bunch of videos on Twitter that I've been doing a video series about Tom Nalen. So there's some talking points. I just posted another one recently where I talked on this show about Tom Nalen. Go watch him and just talk about him. Let's see if we can get some buzz going for him. He's my right now, since Randy Gradishar is getting into the Hall of Fame this year as a senior candidate. Tom Nalen is the next up. He's a modern candidate. Let's see if we can get him in before he gets pushed to that senior poll and have to wait forever. So anyway, thank you very much. Have a great day, Broncos fans. Thanks for joining.